Hello folks, and welcome back to the Bulldog Breakdown on WRPS YouTube and TV channel. I'm your host Ben Carpine out of the Dave Cable Murphy WRPS studio on the Rockland High School campus. I'm really excited to get this episode going. We're reaching the halfway point in the season of it for winter sports by this point in the year. It's mid-January, a lot of teams starting to gear up for a tournament run at this point. So I'm looking forward to kind of delving into this episode, seeing what teams are looking like as we hit that halfway marker. So we're just going to send you in right now. After this brief intro, you'll see the men's basketball. But for now, again, this is the Bulldog Breakdown on WRPS. I'm Ben Carpine. We will see you in just a few moments. Well, unfortunately for men's basketball, they fall to 3-5. And a tough 1-point loss, mind you, to Sandwich on their home court last week on Friday. That puts them at their fifth loss of the season into 8 games. They're looking to pick up a win against Cohasset, which at the time that I'm filming this is tonight. And hopefully they can pick up a win there, Cohasset not being one of the stronger teams in the South Shore League. A win here puts us at 4-5, just under 500. And then we play Middleborough on Friday. That will be a really competitive game, I think. It's tough for Rockland because it just kind of is, the way that Rockland plays. Other towns in the South Shore League, when they go up against Rockland, they have a big red circle on their calendar that says Rockland. And, they're getting ready, they're gearing up to play a team that has won, 51 out of the 55 last year has qualified for the tournament. A long history of success, wicked tradition, I should say. So it's definitely marked on other teams' calendars when they play Rockland that they need to go out there and have a big game. And so far we've seen 5 teams able to come up with a victory against us. So hopefully we can, going forward, slow other teams down this year. And I'm confident that we will, as, we only have 2 games left, Cohasset and Middleborough tonight before we reach the 10-game mark in the halfway point in the season. And I think that, whatever record we are as we hit that 10th game, could be 3-7, hopefully not. Could be 4-6, could be 5-5. I'm confident that no matter what record we are going to have a much better second half of the season than we have had at first. Looking into this week, I'm confident that Rockland's going to win at least 1 game this week, hopefully 2. I think they can win 2, and I would like to see them be over 500 for the rest of the season. Is really kind of my goal for the Rockland basketball team, for the boys team. The Rockland girls basketball team, on the other hand, 4-7, so a similar record, but right now they are 21st in the MIAA Division IV Power Rankings. And that was actually when they were 3-7, so since then they've had an extra win last night versus Hull. It was Monday night, so last night. They have a doubleheader right now. They played Hull last night, which they were able to pick up a W, and then tonight they play Cohasset. That one's at home. They win that game, they go 5-7. They inch closer to that 500 mark as well. It's been an interesting season for the Rockland girls basketball team. The last 2 years, they've been really a powerhouse in the South Shore area, not just the South Shore League, but the whole region in general. And this year, it's a bit of a different story, and not so much in a worse way, but it is kind of a rebuilding year for the girls basketball team. Obviously, you have Maggie Eli, and you have role. I shouldn't say role players, but they have their role defined, and people like Kaylee Kelleher. And, in that sense, there are still some big names on the Rockland girls basketball team, but it's not the same roster that you saw, the last 2 years ago when they were playing at, I think it was UMass Lowell, and you were seeing consistent, deep playoff runs from the girls basketball team. It's a rebuilding year. It's a very young team. So you give it a couple of years, I think Rockland's going to be right back to that. But this year, they're 4-7. I think that's about where they should be. Just given the chance, or given the knowledge that they are, a team of mostly sophomores and freshmen, and it's just not a seriously competitive team, at least in my opinion, like they were in the last couple of years. But that Rockland tradition, I think, still runs strong in this team. So right now they're looking to go 5-7 tonight, and then looking forward for the rest of the season. I think that the girls basketball team will sit around the 500 mark, maybe a little bit over, as they get a little bit further into the South Shore League matchups to end off the season. But they're 21st right now in Division IV, as I already said. That's really good. That means that they are currently in qualification for a tournament. Remember, you have to be top 32 in your division to be a qualifying team for the tournament. So as of now, Rockland girls basketball is qualifying, and with that win under their belt last night versus Hull and a hopeful win over Cohasset tonight, they are going to go up in rank again. So best of luck to the girls basketball team looking forward, and we will go on now to the wrestling team. Well, the wrestling team faced some stiff competition from their Middleborough team, and unfortunately they were not able to come close to a victory. They lost 56-12. And they had a tri-meet on January 12th. That was in Hanover, and they played Hanover, Hingham, and Foxborough. The result of that wasn't particularly able to find, so I'd rather than you speak on it at all, I'm just going to leave that for a later episode. But the Rockland wrestling season, it's wrestling, in my opinion, and I've never wrestled in my life, I think that wrestling is the hardest winter sport and probably the hardest sport in general, just based on the physicality and the physique necessary to be a good wrestler. Wrestling is definitely not an easy sport to be successful in. And Rockland, they've seen bits and pieces of it. They had a pretty nice victory over Randolph a couple weeks ago. But the season, I think, is similar to other Rockland winter sports where it's going okay. It's average. It's really not amazing. It's not terrible. It's somewhere in the middle. I think, last year you lost the class of 2023. That was a huge athletic loss for Rockland because the last year's seniors were probably the most athletic class in the last 6 or 7 years of Rockland High School. And to lose them for every sport was a pretty big ding to the team's rosters. And wrestling is definitely seeing it right now. But that's not to say anything whack about them. I still think that they're a good roster. You have guys, a lot of seniors like Keegan Butler, Gustavo DePaula, Jojo Cornell, just to name a few. You have some guys from South Shore Votech. It's an interesting team, and a couple unfortunate losses, a couple good victories under their belt. And I'm going to say this is going to sound cliche very, very quickly, but I wish my best of luck to the wrestling team going forward, as they have hit their halfway point in the season and are looking forward for the next basically 5 weeks left in the winter sports season. The Rockland hockey team unfortunately falls to 2-9 on the year after a loss to Cohasset Hull, 6-3. Cooper LaRocco had 3 goals, a couple of assists. Ricky Essensey had 38 saves between the pipes. Really not a great year for them in general. And I've touched upon this in the past, but this is definitely a rebuilding year for the Rockland hockey team. When you lose 12 guys and most of your starters are sophomores and freshmen and even a couple, 8th graders somewhere in the second and third lines, it is most definitely a rebuilding year for the Rockland hockey team. So this season, this is about what was expected. When you go forward to the 2024, the 25 seasons next year and 2 years later, which unfortunately I won't be a Rockland High School student anymore to cover. But when you go forward into the future, Rockland's going to be a much better team than they are right now. This season isn't really reflective of what their future is going to look like. But 2-9, not really that impressive. I don't really have to speak much on it because I think the hockey team knows that. But the team has a bright future, and the team has a couple of really good studs that I think are going to be good looking forward into the next season or two. But that's really all I have to talk about for hockey. So we're going to move forward now to winter track. The winter track team finally starting to see some success up there on the score sheet. The boys team just had their first win over Mashpee, 43-30. The girls had their third season win. And looking now ahead, it looks like the track team is finally going to start to get a little bit more on track and start getting away with some W's. Now, winter track, it's one of those weird sports. It's kind of a connector sport between whatever an athlete might do for a fall sport and spring track. So in that sense, winter track I don't think it's anybody's favorite sport. I don't really think it's anybody's, sport that they're the best in. But winter track's just kind of funny like that. So this is really a year of development, or a season of development, I should say. And looking at the long list of PRs that this team has had so far this season, you can see that there is a lot of growth in these athletes' skill levels. JV Rodriguez jumping 5'4" on high jump, just to name a few. Emily Dunham's qualified for the states in the 300 meter, Jake Common, very close to qualifying for states in the 600 meter. Luka Bonik, literally decimals off of qualifying for the 1,000 meter. So it's a team that has a lot of growth, a lot of good, talented athletes, and is very close to being a legitimate contender in the South Shore League, I think. And it doesn't help that Rockland doesn't have, I would say the greatest track facilities. When you look at, Bicentennial Park, it's an old track. I don't think I have to be an expert to say that. It's made out of concrete. It's more than 50 years old. I don't think I have to be, a scientist to say that Rockland's facilities are worse than, for example, Middleborough's or Norwell's. And I think most people would agree with me on that. So, with what we have, Rockland's making very good products out of it, and I'm really looking forward to this spring track season. I'll be doing spring track, I think, this year, and just to see the athletes' growth and all that they've done this winter transform into what they can do in the spring. That will be really exciting. But we're going to move off of spring track now and go ahead with the further parts of this episode. So that about wraps it up for what I can confidently talk about for Rockland sports. And I say the word confidently in there because there is one more winter sport that I'm forgetting, and that's the swim team. And unfortunately, I really just can't find enough data on the swim team to really confidently talk about it in the way that I would like to, in a professional manner. So I'm not skipping you guys. I'm not forgetting you guys. I really do promise. I don't have all that I need to really give you guys a recap like I would for the other sports that I do on the Bulldog Breakdown. So I'm not leaving you guys out of ignorance. I'm leaving you guys out because I don't want to make a miscommunication or, a misguided statement about the swim team when I really don't know as much as I should about them. So I'm going to leave that one up to me. But that about wraps it up for what I can talk about on the Bulldog Breakdown. So as we head into the next week of January, which will now be the third week, and we're closing in on the end of the first half of many sports seasons and the beginning of the second half, we're looking forward ahead, hoping to qualify for tournaments, hoping to get athletes to go to states as we look forward to this second half of the season. So I'm Ben Carpine out of the Dave Cable Murphy WRPS studio. Thank you for watching this episode of the Bulldog Breakdown, and remember, go Dogs!